Getting hired to work in the White House of Ronald Reagan was probably the most exciting day of my life. When I knew I was going to be hired there, I was a young woman, and I had a sense of what I still think of, and oddly enough, as appropriate awe towards the White House and what happens there and who works there, that I was extremely lucky to be one of a few thousand Americans in U.S. history who actually worked in a White House. I adored Ronald Reagan. And two wonderful things were going to happen for me. One, I was going to work in the White House for a president. The other was the president was Reagan, and I adored him. So I've had many exciting moments in my life. When my first book went on the New York Times bestseller list was nice, but nothing compares to finding out I was going to work in the White House for Ronald Reagan. I have a very split view about political figures in power in Washington. One is that I'm always impressed when I'm talking to the majority leader of the U.S. Senate, or the vice president of the United States, the Speaker of the House, or the President of the United States. These are marvelous jobs, and they are often, not always, but often held by men trying very hard to do them well. And I will never stop being impressed by the White House itself to this day. I've been in the Clinton White House 3 or 4 times. I can't stop being impressed just by the play of light on the walls and by the art and by the very air of the place, quite literally, the smell of the flowers in there and the way things sound with the high ceilings and everything. So I still have this awe, and yet at the same time I have a sharper sense than ever that they are just people in there. They are people who get headaches and who do stupid things, and sometimes unethical things, and sometimes venal things. So I don't know if that's a balanced view or a schizophrenic view, but it's one or the other. It's probably schizophrenic. The American dream to me means anyone can come from anywhere and rise to any position in the United States of America. And the other part, it's not quite the American dream, but it's something I think of more and more these days when I think about America. One of the founding fathers, and I don't remember who, said, "America will be great as long as she is good." And of course, implicitly, she will no longer be great when she is no longer good. And I wonder always, are we still good? I.e., are we still great? I wonder, because we've all seen our country change in the past 30 years. I don't know if we're still, quote, good, unquote. More honesty, less cant. I think I'm pronouncing the word correctly. C-A-N-T, no apostrophe. A marvelous old English word meaning, drivel, garbage, disingenuous bull. More honesty, less cant. Beating back our government would help us a bit, I think. I think the government is too big, too powerful, takes too much from us, pushes us around too much. And as a people, I keep wondering if, I was born in 1950, and still, in the middle of this century, people born when I was, still just imbibed a sense, partly through school, partly through books, partly through modern entertainment, through movies, through TV, that it was a good thing to be American, and why it was a good thing, and what America was about, what the Constitution was about, what our history was about. Just keep wondering if we communicate that so well to our kids. And if we don't communicate that so well to our kids, then they're not growing up with the same love for America or reasons to love America that we grew up with. Well, what are the implications of that? If they don't love and honor this thing, they won't try to protect this thing. Well, what if they don't try to protect this thing? Well, then we could lose this thing. When I was in the 3rd grade, my teacher, Miss Brown, assigned us all of the kids in the class, about 30 kids, to write a poem about Thanksgiving. And I just threw myself into this poem on Thanksgiving, and I think I worked on it, if I remember right, for a few days. And then we all handed our poems in. And Miss Brown was so impressed by my poem on Thanksgiving that she read it to the entire class. And then she told them I had written it. And when she told them I had written it, I thought, well, I'm a writer. It's clear I'm a writer. She thinks I'm a writer. I enjoyed writing the poem. I must be a writer. So I'm quite serious. I mean, everybody sort of arbitrarily picks a point where they understood they were going to be an astronaut or a roller skater or a writer, and I suppose that is my arbitrary point, but it is the one that I think of first. It's like one of the scientists, one of the Nobel Prize winners on a panel today said, I think it was Edward Teller, said, "It is my job to search for the truth." I always think that's what writers think. They always think that if they get the really perfect word that really perfectly conveys what the breakfast roll looked like, that they've captured a truth about reality at that moment. So I think it's the same. It's actually that old cliche, the search for truth, that impels scientists, doctors, philosophers, and even writers. I had a tendency when I was a kid to be more impressed with people that I saw on television than people I saw immediately around me, you know. The first political figure who made a big impression on me was John F. Kennedy. I had just turned 10 when he was elected president. And of course, in my family, we were all for the Kennedys because we were Irish Catholic too. I mean, it was almost that simple, you know. And of course, we were Democrats. If you were Irish Catholic from Brooklyn, of course you were a Democrat. What else would you be? But we just loved the Kennedys. And then after John Kennedy was shot, when he was eulogized so often and became such a national hero, I think I sort of absorbed a sense of what you want to do and how you want to live and who you want to be from the many eulogies about him and essays about him and even books about him, like Vance Bourgeois' The Man Who Knew Kennedy. So I can remember John F. Kennedy made a great impression on me when I was a kid. I was a great reader of biographies. You know, I am a person, I actually love reality. I love stories that, when a movie begins with the words, "This is a true story," immediately I am more interested than in a made-up story. So I was very drawn to history. I was very drawn to biography. I'm just drawn to what actually happened. And that was true of me even when I was a kid, although when I was a romantic teenager and in my early 20s, I went through a real novel reading time. Scott Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway. And later Edith Wharton and Walker Percy, whose work was so great he actually became a hero to me when I was in my 30s. I read The Moviegoer when I was a young woman, and it made such a strong impression on me that I had to put it down when I was done and go back to it 2 years later and read it again and see, is this wonderful? Ultimately, I thought it was probably the great American novel of the latter part of the 20th century, and every now and then life turns gratifying. When I got to the Reagan White House, and we got, as special assistants to the president, to nominate people for the Medal of Freedom, I was so honored that I spent a week writing an essay telling Ronald Reagan why he should pick Walker Percy for the Medal of Freedom and honor him in the White House of our great nation. I think this was in 1984. But they gave it to Frank Sinatra instead. And then Walker Percy died about 2 years later, and I'm still upset. He never got the Medal of Freedom. But anyway, it was fun to have loved something so much and then to have told the president about it and to tell him, do something for this man. He's a great man. I have two very disparate dreams right now. I'm not sure which road I'm going to go down, and they are absolutely split. One is that all of my life I've wanted to write scripts. Wanted to write them for movies and for television, for like Hallmark Hall of Fame. Always wanted to do that. And so I think, you know what? I happen to be finishing a book right now, and it'll be done in July. But I think, as soon as that's done and then I sell it, then I can go down that road. And then I think, no, the political year's coming up. I think I want to do some more television and do more public issue stuff, and do documentaries and be on news shows and have some say have some presence in the arena, And these are two opposite desires. I don't see me being able to get them together, because one is sort of a writer's life, sitting at home being your neurotic writer self and trying to pull good stuff out of yourself, and the other is being a sort of outer person and a more gregarious, extroverted. The other involves extroverting, and for me that's kind of a not only emotionally tiring but physically tiring, extroverting all the time. Nice thing about staying home and writing is I don't have to talk to anybody. Oh, that sounds horrible, but in a way I just sort of talk to the PC. It's a little bit less exhausting in a way than extroverting in the world. So anyway, I see these as two different persona, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So I've become a very serious Christian in the past few years. So now this is very easy for me because I just get to pray about it. Say, God, I just want you to do what you want me to do. So would you please lead me in that direction? So sooner or later I'll be led in that direction. There is no advice to give a kid. I was thinking of making some jokes. Look, there's no advice. I'll tell you what's true. If that kid is a writer, he or she's going to wind up being a writer. That's how easy this is. They will not become a writer if they really aren't a writer, if in fact they really have the impulses of a plumber, or if in fact they really have the impulses of a wonderful portrait painter, and that is their talent. If that's their talent, they'll actually wind up painting portraits. They won't wind up writing. So, if you're a writer, you write. And if you're a novelist, you write novels. This is how easy it is. The only technical advice I would give is this. And I spoke of it today in the symposium. And I feel this very strongly. Between the ages of roughly 15 and 25 or 30, your brain, your physical brain is literally, it's a first-rate organ. And it's porous, and it holds on to things. It's like a big dry sponge, and information and literature is warmth, and it just sucks it in and it holds it. I am very lucky that between the ages of 15 and roughly 30, I was reading wonderful things. I was in love with poetry, so I read a lot of American poetry and a lot of English poetry. I was in love with plays, and I read a lot of plays. I was in love with history and with biography. Good stuff went into my brain, and I have it to this day. And I think sometimes, boy, that's, I can quote that Robert Frost poem at length until my son says, stop. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not mind me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. The little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake this darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sound's the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. We both just forgot we were in an interview.
Yes,
How lucky for us.